I am the Director of Coding Arkansas's Future, a program at ASMSA, the Arkansas School of Mathematics, Sciences, and the Arts, that works to help teachers learn how to teach computer science. And if I were a Microsoft Office application, I would be Access, like Jake. And it's kitschy, but Access is like, in so many ways, am I Access? I'm Access because I'm the program no one really understands. Yeah. I'm Access because I'm excited that you're all here and your people, the people who come to your libraries and your institutions, will now have access to more STEM content. Ooh, see what I did there? So I challenge you to try to learn something today. I challenge you to push through your struggles because this is frustrating, this is hard. I was talking to Doug outside earlier and I said, this is not a boxed cake. This is not something that it's like, put all of the stuff in, mix it up, and then poof, cupcakes. This is a lot more like a tub of Lego. There's just bricks, and you have to bring your own creativity to it. The publisher people are going to totally get this because you have so much creativity, you have so much opportunity to work and to create. And the Excel people are going to get this because all those formulas are still here. They just come in a different form. And if you have a publisher and an Excel in your team, you're going to be amazing because you have that link between those diverse skill sets. So the starting slide here had you connecting to the network. Did anyone need help getting connected to the Wi-Fi? Cool. The next link was taking you to the installation instructions for various platforms for MIT App Inventor. And I'll tell you a little bit more about App Inventor as well. But if you haven't visited this link yet, you'll need to do that in your browser on a Windows, Mac, or Linux computer. If you have a Chromebook, it's not going to work exactly sufficiently for today. And begin downloading that big, enormous file. The thought question was, what 3 mobile apps do you use most? I wear a lot of hats. I direct Coding Arkansas's Future. I mentor teachers in over 50 Arkansas districts. And I also do a lot of work out of state. So most weekends, I'm in a city far, far away, and I'm trying to navigate the highways. So my favorite navigation app is Waze, W-A-Z-E. If you've never heard of it, it's kind of like Google Maps, it's kind of like Apple Maps, but it's crowdsourced. And so if there's a pothole in the road, a person can mark it and say, hey, there's a pothole here. And then when you're driving down the road, Waze will be, warning, pothole ahead. It's pretty cool. So Waze is one of my favorite mobile apps, or one of the mobile apps that I use most. What would you think are your top 3 mobile apps? So I heard a lot of really good examples of apps.
Oh, yeah.
Usually I learn of a new app, like I hear someone say an app, I'm like, what is that app? I didn't hear an app that I'd never heard of. I heard you talking about Freegal. I thought it was Freegal. I don't know. But there are not a lot of people who are aware of all the free stuff that you can get from the library for your mobile. Just download that content and use it. So if you haven't heard of Freegal, it's spelled like it sounds. You just don't know how to say it.
F-R-E-E-G-A-L.
Yes.
It's
can
supposed to be frugal, like frugal.
you can plug in your library credentials, which if you don't have, you can talk to your librarian and get it. There are a lot of those here. And access content. So it's pretty cool. Now for your group, if you break an app down into its building blocks, like think about the screen of the app. What building blocks did the designers use to build the apps that exist in all of the apps at your table?
I'm sorry, what app?
Sure. So you discussed a number of apps. Think about the way the app looks, the layout of the screen. And Facebook has several different screens. There's like I'm looking at my friend's profile screen. There's I'm adding a comment screen. You can choose whatever screen you want. But thinking about all the apps that your table discussed, what design building blocks are common among all of those apps?
Is scrolling a building block?
The ability to go through a list would kind of be, I guess.
I would say like there are subcategories at the top that you kind a switch, so.
Oh, so navigation
Yeah.
tools like selectors to go through different modes.
Right.
Today we're going to talk about MIT App Inventor. MIT App Inventor is a tool that was actually created at Google in about 2010. Google took on an educator from MIT who was on sabbatical. His name was Hal Abelson. Hal Abelson is one of those, like, he's awesome and he's still alive and he's still doing stuff. So Hal Abelson is an MIT computer science educator. And his belief was that the emerging market of mobile apps, 2010 was a very different world than 2018 in terms of access to smartphones, and in 2010 there would not be a room full of librarians. I don't want to use that blanket word too liberally, but in 2010 there would not be a room full of librarians learning how to make mobile apps because it was very much technical and impossible. So Hal Abelson said, I want to change that. I want to make making apps accessible to the world, because this platform doesn't need to be locked up. This platform needs to be open and people need to have the ability to make stuff. So the spirit of this space, this tinkering space, is the same spirit of MIT App Inventor. It's designed so that anyone can do it, and it's designed to be free. There's no cost for the software. And Google took on Hal Abelson on his sabbatical, gave him a team, gave him resources, and let him tinker. And App Inventor is the product of that sabbatical. So when the sabbatical finished, Hal Abelson went back to MIT. Hal Abelson was allowed to take App Inventor back to MIT. And so it's MIT App Inventor, but it was developed with a lot of funding from Google. It's maintained by a set of volunteer grad students at MIT. So don't expect it to be perfect. Expect it to be pretty cool. It's pretty good. Plus, it's been around for years, so most of the big bugs have been squashed. But we will always find something that doesn't work right. Always find something that doesn't work right. I love App Inventor for a lot of reasons. It uses blocks. So you've been doing other programming before. Has anyone done Hour of Code with code.org? It uses the same blocks as code.org Hour of Code. So if you got the Angry Bird to the piggy and you got the plants and the zombies grooving, it's those blocks, the ones that snap together and make cool noises. That language is called Blockly, and it has largely been adopted by a lot of different programming and especially elementary and middle school programming curricula. If you've used Scratch to make stuff, then you'll be familiar with these blocks. So this is not designed to give you an aneurysm, it's designed to be accessible, but it'll still give you an aneurysm. So because App Inventor was created at Google, it was built to leverage a lot of the Google platform. One of the pieces that App Inventor uses is it stores all of your apps in the cloud in your Google account. So if you go to the D. Brown Library, which is right down the street from my house, and you start working on an app, and then you want to go home and finish working on your app, if you have access to a computer at home, you can do that as long as you're signed in your Google account. I know, it's cool. So I'm using my Gmail account, which was provided by work. As long as you have a Gmail or a Google Applications for Education account, it'll work. So a lot of times, whole schools will be provided access to Gmail that's controlled by the school IT people. That's cool too. If you just Google up App Inventor, MIT App Inventor will be one of the first couple of things you get. So if you'll click on MIT App Inventor, you should get a page resembling that one. So you are going to be here for a little while, and then you're going to go back and you're going to be the resident experts on App Inventor. Yeah. So one thing to know about is this tab here called Resources. And I'm not going to encourage you to go on a deep dive just yet. We're doing more of a breadth first rather than a depth first search. But the tab called Resources will let you pull up books, articles, papers. You can filter by grade level, filter by subject. App Inventor has been around, and so people have started creating educational resources that plug into it, and you can use the resources section to find tutorials. If you want step-by-step instructions, those exist. If you want videos showing you how to do stuff, those exist. There's also a very large user community on YouTube of 12-year-olds that love App Inventor. So I wanted to show you the resources section and sort of just put a star next to that. You find that by searching App Inventor, clicking on the one that's the right one, and then up here is resources. I'm your YouTube for the next few hours. I'm not as entertaining as YouTube, but I'm more responsive. Okay, up here on the right-hand corner, do you find the Create Apps button? I'm colorblind. What color is it? Orange. Orange? Okay. You could have sold me it being green, but if you find the Create Apps button on the top right, click it, and then you'll begin this daunting process to get here. You won't get here immediately because you have like a battery of questions. So the first question is going to be like, hey, is it cool if we use your Google account to attach to App Inventor? And if you're signed into multiple ones, choose which account you want to connect. If you're not signed into any one, it'll ask you to go ahead and sign in. But eventually you're like, yeah, cool, sign me into Google, attach my Google to App Inventor, doesn't cost anything, doesn't take up any of your Google space. And eventually, you get to a screen that resembles mine, sort of. App Inventor will often invite you to take a survey. You can either take the survey, I don't recommend you do that right now because you don't really have any answers, or tell them you'll take it later, or tell them you'll take it never. That's between you and MIT App Inventor. The pop-up screen that you first get has a link that says set up and connect an Android device. That's the link I gave you earlier. So if you've already followed that link that I gave you earlier and downloaded the stuff and you got the black box, you're good. If you need to go and set this up on another computer, if you go to App Inventor, this is the link you click to get that download started. So if you've never used App Inventor, you'll get this welcome screen. If you've used App Inventor before, it'll take you straight to where you've already been working. So you have a new project button. Click that new project button and it'll ask you to name it. So on the left-hand side, do you have a strip called User Interface? Yeah, that's like the pantry for all the ingredients of a screen. You have your buttons, and you have your labels, and you have your checkboxes, and you have places to pick images, and lists, and password text box, and all kinds of stuff. The way that, for me, App Inventor I learned by doing. So please put a button on your screen. So everyone I've passed so far has got a button on the screen, and the way they got that was by dragging it from the left-hand side and dropping it on the phone screen. Did you notice how your button sort of naturally gravitated to the top left corner? Everything in App Inventor, unless otherwise specified, sticks in the top left corner. So I dragged a button, and I dropped the button. Success. Challenge 2. Can you please change the words on the button to say, push me? So the way you do that is you make sure your button is the thing selected, and then over here on the right-hand side, there's this whole column of things we know about the button. We know its background color, we know its font size, we know its height and width. One of the things we also know about the button, is its text. So with your button selected, down here on the bottom right, you may have to scroll to see it, is a field called text. And so here's where you change the text on your button. And I said, push me. And as soon as you take your cursor out of the edit box for the text, the phone screen changes. The name of this button, by default, is button 1. At the bottom, there is a rename button, and if I have button 1 highlighted and choose rename, it'll let me name the button something else. I'm not going to do that right now, but know that renaming the button doesn't change the property of the button, it actually changes what we refer to it as. Because your app may have 2 buttons, an OK and a cancel. Challenge 3. Can you change the background color of your screen to something fabulous? Can you change the background color of your screen to something fabulous? Let me show you what I saw that made me go, I saw someone go, ooh, I see right here the background color. I'm going to change it to something fabulous. And lime green is, oh no. Why did that not work?
If you're on the wrong layer.
I'm changing the background color of the button, not the background color of the screen. Here's how you fix it. If you accidentally change the background color of your button, you can change it back to default. Default is do whatever your phone settings say. The button on an Android app, if it's default, it says whatever the user decides buttons look like, this button should look like. But you can override that default by changing its properties. But that's not what we came to do. We came to change the background color of the screen to something fabulous. Help me. What do I do?
Highlight screen.
I have to select the screen. So there's a couple ways to do it. One is click the screen. One is to, from the components list, select screen 1. Either way you can do that. And with screen 1 selected, you have a totally different set of properties. And one of those properties is background color. I'm going to choose magenta. One more challenge before we do something completely different. I would like you, in big, bold, colorful letters, probably all the same color for starters, to put your name above that button. In big, colorful letters, I'd like you to put your name above that button. So I'll show you what everyone does when I give this task. Not everyone. There's the ringers in the room that have done this before. But most people, when they're told, okay, put your name on the screen, they go, okay, I want to put some words. Oh, look, a text box. It's way down at the bottom. A text box. That's not the one I would use. But let me put it on there and show you what I see. So I saw this on a whole lot of screens.
Yeah.
And I ask you to put your name in fancy lettering. And so how do you go about getting your name in that box?
Label.
Ooh, yeah. So label's a different way to do it. So the text box is not the way I would think to do that. Have you ever ordered anything online? You know the box that says, what's your address? What's your city? Probably have a drop down for state. What's your zip code? These are the kinds of boxes that let you type in words, or numbers, or things. So a text box is an input where you're putting information into the app. But if you use that, then people could change your name. So what if you put something on your screen that you don't want on your screen anymore?
Delete.
Select it, and then push delete. Or on your keyboard, just push delete. So I'm going to delete that text box. And I heard from the back row to try a label. Label is not as intuitive, but label is the answer. While I'm here, I want to show you that all the things have little question bubbles beside them. And if you click the little question bubble beside the label, it opens up a brief description of what exactly that thing is. A label displays a piece of text which is specified through the text property. Well, could have told me that earlier. Other properties, all of which can be set in the designer or blocks editor, control the appearance and placement of the text. That's what I want. So as you're app inventing, if there's a thing you're like, I don't quite understand what a notifier does, just click your little question mark beside it and it'll tell you more. And if you need even more, then you click the more information link and it'll take you to the manual. Yes, there's a manual. Okay. So I'm going to put my name on the screen. I want it to be large white letters. What do I do? I do what?
To the right on the bottom.
To the right? What am I changing?
We want to change the color on the bottom.
Yeah, text color, I want it to be white. There's white. And then I want it to be large, so what do I change to make it large? Font size. I'm going to pick 33-point font because I have a small name. And then I want to change the words. What do I do? Change the text. I'm going to say Daniel Moix. Ha-ha. Now, here comes the test of all tests. Can we make it run? It's like Kitty Hawk here. Will it fly? I want to actually run this app because this is, has everyone used PowerPoint? We are like in the making the slides mode where I can drag stuff around and I can change its properties and I can add animations. But really when you get ready to run the PowerPoint, you don't want to be able to move stuff around. You want it to be stuck. So we're going to try to switch from making the slide to showing the slide. If you were able to download the thing, and if you got the big ugly black window and you didn't close the big ugly black window, this will work. If any of those other things happen, we'll get it figured out. At the top of your window, do you see the word connect with a drop down? Connect with a drop down. So, yep, you may have to scroll up to see it. There's a navigation, says connect. We want to connect to the emulator. We know that not every library, not every school, not every student has a tablet or a phone available to make apps with. But if they have a computer that's got them this far, that computer can simulate a phone. So if you push that button on your screen, there should be now the oldest, crankiest straight talk phone you've ever seen. Sitting here. Yeah, so if you have the screen that says your companion is out of date, you are exactly where you belong. You're doing exactly the right things. And if you just read and follow the instructions, you can update it. So please read and follow the instructions to update your companion. So for those of you who were able to get the companion to run and to get your lovely screen running on the emulator, what does your app do?
Nothing so far.
Nothing. PowerPoint is much easier to use than App Inventor. If all you're going to do is arrange things and make them beautiful colors and stuff, don't use App Inventor for that. Use PowerPoint. App Inventor is for making apps that interact and respond. So I want to add one more piece. On the left-hand side, do you see the media section? Please open the media drawer. Oh, there's so many things. Yeah. And please drag in a text-to-speech widget. I know. Please drag in a text-to-speech widget. And unlike the button and the label, they didn't appear on your screen. The text-to-speech widget came to the bottom of the screen in the non-visible components. Now, I want to give it some commands so that when we push the push me button, it's going to say, that tickles. Or whatever you want it to say. Stop it, whatever. Okay, in the top right corner, after you've added your text-to-speech, in the top right corner there's a button called blocks. Please click blocks. You may have to scroll to find it. So blocks is kind of like Alice through the Looking Glass. We're down the rabbit hole, whole new world. All of the things that you've added to your screen, including your screen, your label, your button, and your text-to-speech widget, are all listed here. And we can create commands that interact with and take cues from those things. So I said when we push the button, I wanted to say some words. So if you would please locate your button. So click on button 1, and that opens up the list of things that the button knows and can do. Opens up the list of things the button knows and can do. At the top is this C-clamp looking thing that says when button 1 click, do. Please drag out the block that says when button 1 click, do. If you have your volume turned up, we're about to hear some exciting clicky noises. Okay. When button 1 is clicked, please do this. What did I tell it to do? Nothing yet. Okay, so foreshadowing, we brought in a text-to-speech thingy thing. So if you would please then click on your text-to-speech widget and pull out this call text-to-speech 1.speak block. Call text-to-speech 1.speak block. And those will clip together. If you get it close enough, it's like, ooh, I want to go there. And it makes this satisfying snap. When you have 30 kids in a room making these things, it just sounds like popcorn. When button 1 is clicked, speak a message. Well, I haven't told it what to say yet, and there's not a stop touching me button. But there is a text block here under built-in. So if you please click text under built-in and pull out your air quotes. It's the top of the list. You may have to scroll to find it. At the very top of the list, I call it air quotes. It's a block. And you can plug your air quotes into the message and then type your message in there. So I've written stop touching me. And now, if everything is cool, in the bottom it says you have no warnings and no errors. And you have sort of a cogent command. So for those of you who have an emulator running, and a moo cow or a duck or a koala bear, turn your volume up and then go push your button on your emulator.
Do you realize you need Jimmy again?
You got it! And on my Android tablet, I've installed the MIT App Inventor AI2 companion. Instead of me picking emulator, which is supposed to load the oldest, ugliest, slowest straight top phone you've ever seen, and then let you test your app using just a computer, I'm going to pick companion. And then using the tablet's camera,
This method works great.
I'm going to scan the QR code, and then that disappears, and on my tablet, I probably have blocks in my backpack
Oh,
from a previous day.
okay.
So the backpack is if I want to like move blocks between apps, or if I want to take stuff between screens. Yeah.
So if you like something that you've created, you can like put it in your backpack and save it to put it somewhere else too.
There's no promise that the stuff you put in your backpack will stay there forever. It's more of a function of the universe's backpack gets full and they take out the oldest stuff. But as you're working, anything that you put here should survive. The backpack is more like I need to get it from here and take it over to there.
Like your brain.
What have we done so far? If we just do a brief recap and try to pull the pieces together in some semblance of normalcy on our first look at App Inventor. Well, what did we learn about names of App Inventor apps?
They can't have space.
Cannot have spaces. So I use this thing, it's a technical term, camel case, where you capitalize each word, the first letter of each word as you go, because you can't use spaces. You can either use underscores or you can use camel case to capitalize things like that. So once you get a new project in App Inventor, you're in the design mode. We learned that on the left-hand side is the palette that has all of the building blocks of all the parts of an app. In the center is sort of like your blank canvas where you assemble the parts of your screen. On the right are the properties of the thing you have selected. Each had a question, which will be a common question that lots of people want to know the answer to. How do I center something? How do I put my name in the center? I have two answers for you. One answer is if you want to center everything, one of the properties of screen one, the whole screen, is horizontal alignment. And so I can choose to horizontally align everything on screen one in the center. Or I can horizontally align everything on screen one to the right or the left. That's the lazy man's way. Because maybe I don't want everything on my screen to be aligned to the center. Questions about that bit?
Okay.
Did you notice how I didn't align the individual components? I aligned the container. We need to put in a container just for my name. So the container is under layout, and these are containers that can contain things. So I want a horizontal arrangement, which is like a box I can put things in, and then I can tell everything in that box how it's to be aligned. Did that make sense? Okay, it's going to be weird for just a minute, and then we'll get it fixed.
Could you
The first thing I need to do is to change the property of my horizontal arrangement to tell the box how wide it is. So I've selected the horizontal arrangement and I want to tell it to be as wide as the screen. So I can either tell it, fill the parent, just be as wide as you can be, or I can say be 300 pixels wide, or be 50% of the screen. I'm just going to say be fill parent wide. That makes the box as wide as the screen that it's in. Then I can put my name in the box. And then lastly, I need to tell the box to be centered. So here's the app where I was. And I said that you could either center everything on your screen by going like all the way on the right, all the way on the left, all the way in center. Or if you only want to change the horizontal or vertical alignment of a particular component, you need to, under the layout group, so user interface is all the common stuff. Under layout, you use the horizontal arrangement, which is like this magic box.
Okay.
So everything within this magic box will be aligned as it's configured. So first I need to tell the width of the thing to be as wide as the screen is. Because if I don't do that, if I put my name in this magic box, if I can even do that, if I put my name in the box, and I tell the box, dear box, align things in the center, it doesn't take any effect because the box is not wide enough to have space to be centering in. So I tell the horizontal arrangement, its width is as much as the screen is, and then my name is centered.
And then you can change the background to match your background. Right?
Interesting story. Let me turn my tablet here and get it straightened up. On the tablet, if you see here, I'm waving my hand. If you see on the tablet, my name is not in a weird color. It appears as I'm expecting it to appear. The reason that that's a weird color is so you can actually see that there's a box there. It used to be that the whole arrangement was transparent and you couldn't see it and it looked on the screen like it looked on the tablet, but then no one could find their arrangements when they lost them. So the purpose of it having
So you don't have to change
a shade,
background.
right. The purpose of having a shade is so you can get your mouse on it.
Thank you.
Another thing that you might notice is that now that label 1 is subordinate to the horizontal arrangement 1, in the components list, label 1 is indented somewhat. So you can make entire groups and subgroups and get them arranged appropriately. Okay. I'm going to make a new project. Project, new project. I'm going to call it Magic 8 Ball. And I would encourage you to make a Magic 8 Ball app as well. So the way I got there is under the project menu at the top, I chose project, new project, and I've encouraged you to pick Magic 8 Ball. I'm going to, on my screen, put a button. And then I'm going to Google Images and looking for a Magic 8 Ball image. You could probably do better than me, but I'm just going to go find the first Magic 8 Ball with I don't want to see the 8. I want to see the part where the answer shows up, but I want it to be blank. So I literally just went to Google and typed in Magic 8 Ball and I found this picture. I'm going to save this image to my desktop. So I've saved my Magic 8 Ball picture to my desktop. And then, meanwhile, back in App Inventor, wherever it went, I'm going to change the image property of my button. I'm going to upload the picture I got from the internet into my button. So, on my screen, I have a button. I've updated the button's image component to be the Magic 8 Ball. I don't know if you can see it or not, but on it, if I zoom in a little bit, can you see here it says text for button 1? On yours, it also probably says text for button 1. To make that text more legible, just change the color of the text, which is a property called text color, to white or some other color that fits the image you chose. I can much more clearly see the words that my Magic 8 Ball is trying to tell me. Although, text for button 1 is probably not something a Magic 8 Ball would say. Another thing that I'm concerned about is my Magic 8 Ball is falling off the side of my screen. Some of your Magic 8 Balls are probably too small, too wide. So I can change properties of my button, like its height and its width. One property you can choose is fill parent, which is just be as wide as the thing is, but then I have a Magic 8 egg. The width of an App Inventor screen in pixels is 320 pixels. Not 230, 320. So I've updated the width, and I'm also going to update the height so that I have a square circle. So my picture doesn't give me an aneurysm. So I've updated the picture, I've updated the color of the text, I've updated the width and height, and I'm just going to go ahead and remove text for button 1 later, because we're going to have the computer choose some words for it in a minute. I have one final thing that makes me go crazy about App Inventor apps. Do you see at the top left of my screen it says screen 1? I don't like that. I want that to say like what the app is, and the way you change it is by going to screen 1 and changing its title property. And so the title of this is going to be Magic 8 Ball. So now I feel a little bit better about that. So I've changed the property of screen 1, got a button. Now I just need to write the code. Where do I go to write the code? Go to blocks. So, in this app, when I push the Magic 8 Ball, I want it to tell me some magical, mystical prediction like Magic 8 Balls do. So in the blocks editor, on the left-hand side, you click on the button 1 button. And I want to use the win button click. And if you hover over these things, it'll tell you what they do. Like long click is when you hold your finger down on it, or touch up is you've had your finger on it when you lift your finger off. I just want win button 1.click, do this. Okay? What part of this screen, what part of the screen needs to change when I get an answer out of the Magic 8 Ball? The text property. The text, perfect. So how do I change the button's text property? Where would I probably start looking? Under the button. Because there are, like, I could change the screen's text property. I could change the button's text property. If I had a label, I could change that too. So under button 1, if you scroll down, there's a whole lot of these other blocks. And one of them is, actually 2 of them are button 1.text. So do you find button 1.text a pair of buttons, a pair of blocks? Okay, one of these is set button 1's text. One of these is get button 1's text. So set and get. We want to use the setter. So bring out set button 1's text and snap it in. If it doesn't snap, you got the wrong one. So when I click button 1, I want to set its text to well, I can make the world's most boring Magic 8 Ball by just putting like no as my answer. And I bet you can read those blocks and tell me what's going to happen. When I push the Magic 8 Ball, my Magic 8 Ball is going to say no. Every time. The world's most boring Magic 8 Ball. But I have to test it to make sure I got it. So you could connect to the emulator. I'm going to connect to the companion. So on here, I scan the QR code, I point it at the code, and like magic, the gift of Wi-Fi, I now have my Magic 8 Ball, and when I push it, it says no.
How do I switch my emulator to this project? Do I just reset connection?
If it didn't automatically carry you over, connect reset, and then connect to emulator, and then wait another 42 minutes and it'll load. But I want a Magic 8 Ball that says different things at random. If I want to have a list of things, you want to go to the lists menu. And do you find a pick a random item Under lists, pull out the pick a random item block. Instead of a single word, you choose pick a random item. And so there's a block called make a list. Let's talk about this new thing we've never seen before, the little gear. If you have a Magic 8 Ball that only has two answers, like no and yes, I guess that's twice as good as a Magic 8 Ball that only says no, but I want to have more variety in my answers. So if you click the little gear, you can drag more list items in like this. You drag from over here, and you drop them there. So you get more list items by dragging new items from the left into your list to make more list items. So drag as many blanks in as you feel the creativity you have today. I just pull this out of my backpack every time I plug it in here. That's what the backpack's for. I didn't have to write my messages because they came out of my backpack. So now, when I smash my Magic 8 Ball, it says without a doubt. Smash it again, it says yes, reply hazy, go ask your mother. Can you make your app speak through its little computer voice what it says on, I know, can you make it say the words out loud, what it says on the Magic 8 Ball? So here's my solution. My solution says, when button 1 is clicked, set the button's text to a randomly selected saying, and then speak whatever you put on button 1's text. There's a little pokey part at the bottom of the button 1.text, and you need to get the little any part of your call text to speech 1 to align. But this is actually another App Inventor life skill that you may not have recognized up front. You can make a button do more than one instruction. It's not obvious, but you can scooch them in there. Under Designer, if you look at your text to speech, you can change the pitch and speech rate.
There you go. Now go to.
For those who identify as Android people, if you go to your Google Play Store on your device and you search for MIT AI2 Companion, it's this honeycomb looking one here, MIT AI2 Companion. This is on your phone you want to find this, not on your computer necessarily. I'm doing it up here. So this is for the Android phone people. If you go to your Play Store and you find the MIT AI2 Companion and install it, then you'll be able to teleport your apps on your phone. There's something magical about having the app running on your device versus having the app running on your computer. There's something additionally magical about having the app running on a device you own versus a device you've borrowed. I know this about watching kids. If they can get it to go on their phone and they take it home and show mom, they're like, yes, I did this thing. Versus, yeah, I did this activity. It's fine, we made a Magic 8 Ball. While you're figuring out the wires, have it start downloading its updates. So because these are Amazon Kindle Fire tablets, they are Amazon affiliated. I'll tell you how I did it. I created a Gmail account that was the Gmail account for all my tablets. And then I created an Amazon account affiliated with my fake Gmail account. You could just as easily create an Amazon account associated with your work email address. If you already have a work email but you don't have an Amazon account attached to your work email address, the only thing you want to be mindful of is don't sign in to your personal Amazon account on these tablets, because then if it's sitting in the library and somebody wants to go shopping, they can. First, we took it out of the box, charged it up, turned it on, connected it to Wi-Fi, and then we had to sign into an Amazon account. You wouldn't have to do that on a regular Google tablet. And then we went to appinv.us/companion.
From where?
From the Silk browser. Silk is like the closest they have to Google Chrome in their browser. It's on the home screen. And download the file that's the App Inventor Companion, and then you have to run it, but it says, you can't do that. We don't know where this came from. It didn't come out of our Play Store. we don't trust it. And you say, go to settings and enable unknown sources. And then you click it again and it installs. And then, once it's installed, you get a screen that looks like this. So what do you do at that screen?
In the QR code.
On your App Inventor, you go to Connect, Reset Connection, and instead of Emulator, you pick Companion. And then you choose Scan QR Code, and you use the camera to scan the QR code, and through the magic of the internet, there's really no magic, it's just technology. Your app shows up on your tablet, and it does the thing. What does your tablet know about its surroundings, or what can your tablet tell about its surroundings that a computer programming running inside your browser could not? Touch. Mm-hmm. Do you also notice how when you turn the thing sideways, it can sense gravity? It can sense when you shake it. So I want us to make an app that when you shake it,
Wow.
says,
Better voice.
stop shaking me. Let's see if we can do that. I'm going to start a new project. And I'm going to call this one Shaking. Now, the thing that we need to get from App Inventor is a sensor. So if you scroll down on the left-hand side, there's this section called Sensors. These are things that can help us read in phenomena from the outside world. The sensor we want to use at first is called the accelerometer sensors. First one, just drop it on your screen, and the accelerometer sensor can sense when there's acceleration in the device. If I want it to say words out loud, I also need, from the media group, the text to speech. We want to change something when it shakes, and so that should be where we start. So I want to, at least, you're exactly right. Awesome. I want us to think about that thought process. Remember early on when I'm like, how do you make it do something when you push a button? You have to go to the button. How do you make it do something when it shakes? You go to the thing that knows when it shakes. So we are programming in a paradigm called event-driven programming. The event here is, which one of these?
The second one.
When accelerometer sensor 1 dot shaking. All of the things of the same color and the same shape are more or less the same kind. So these, what color are those? Orange? Green?
Brown.
They're brown.
Brown?
Something. Top two are brown, the bottoms are green.
Top two are brown. Okay, the brown hamburger shaped ones, C-clampy things, these are called event handlers. And anything of this is an example of an event, an occurrence. So on the occurrence of someone shaking me, do the following. And what do I want to do? Speak some text. Stop shaking me. So now, given this, can you go back and fix your magic 8-ball so that your magic 8-ball does its magic when you shake the device? Our ask was, can you make your magic 8-ball respond to a shake? So I went to my designer, knowing what I know. I went down to sensors, and I brought in an accelerometer sensor, because it's not going to know the world is shaking unless it has an accelerometer sensor. So back under blocks, then I could use this when shaking. Struggle is, I don't necessarily want to have 2 copies of all these blocks, because that makes me feel uneasy as a programmer. Usually in coding, if you have copies of stuff, you're doing it wrong. But now, if I push my magic 8-ball,
Yes. Without a doubt.
fine. Okay, I can shake it,
Yes. For sure. Go reply Daisy.
or I can tap it, and it does the same thing. But I'm not excited about having copies of my code.
We're still able.
So let me show you a trick. A thing you can do is called a procedure. Let me scroll this away. This is not an essential life skill. This is more like bonus round material. I can create a procedure to make prediction. And here are the steps you do to make a prediction. To make a prediction, I choose from my list, I set the text, and I say what I chose. That's what you do to make a prediction. And now that I have a block with a name, whether you click or shake, it calls your make prediction procedure and it does it. So, what if I wanted my Magic 8 Ball to text people? Under social, there's a texting component. Don't worry about doing this. Just observe and appreciate the brilliance. I can drag in a texting block, and then I can say, like, I can put in 501472 blah 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 blah. I can put in a number that I want it to text, and then using texting, I can say, why don't we set the message to whatever our message is, and then why don't we send that message to the number I typed in. So now, if this were running on a real phone, whenever I shake my Magic 8 Ball, it's going to text somebody the message. You can make your app do anything a phone can do. It can call people. It can tweet. What other things are there that your app can tell about its surroundings? So one thing is you determine that it can sense acceleration. What happens when you start a phone call? Put the phone up to your face. The screen goes black. Like, how does it know? How does it know? It knows because there's this little, I'm standing in front of the projector. There's this little infrared light emitter, the same kind of light that your TV remote emits. And it while you're on the phone, it's constantly shooting out infrared light. If it shoots out that infrared light and it just goes off into space, the screen stays on. If it shoots out that infrared light and the infrared light reflects back into the sensor, it knows that there's something in proximity to the device and it turns off the screen. This proximity sensor element is a way you can tell from your device whether there's something close to the device or not. Now, phones have this because phones use this. Tablets don't usually have a proximity sensor, but that's what that does. Pedometer, if you're trying to create an app that's measuring motion around the device and you want to know footsteps, you can use the pedometer sensor. Can you imagine how you might integrate texting, tweeting, speech in the pedometer sensor to make an app that congratulates the user every 1,000 steps and tweets every 5,000 steps and sends mom a text message every 10,000 steps? You could build that app for sure. You could build that app, like with the location sensor.
Like a truck.
Yeah. So location sensor can give you your latitude, your longitude, and your altitude. So you can put the location sensor in, and it works better on phones, which have a GPS, which can talk to the cell phone tower and figure out where they are. Works better on phones than on tablets. Tablets can sometimes get a feel for where they are based on the Wi-Fi. But location sensor gives you latitude, longitude, and altitude, and you can use that in your apps. One of the things that students have always wanted to do is, we have a big campus, I need an app to help me figure out how to get from here to there. How do I get from where I am to where I want to go? What else do we have? Barcode scanner lets you scan 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional barcodes, like grocery store barcodes and QR codes and those kinds of things. The gyroscope sensor is, how do I tell which way the device is pointed in 3-dimensional space? Those would be more helpful maybe on robots or other kind of creations like that. But there are a ton of ways that these Android devices can tell the app what's going on around them and enable the people who are writing the code to use that information however they see fit. It's not about necessarily, how do I say what I'm trying to say? App Inventor is about giving the person making the app as much flexibility as possible. I'd like you to make me a new app called Adventure. Make me a new app called Adventure. I would love for you to put a label on your screen that has a passage of text and then 2 buttons below with choices. I can do this or I can do that. You can have 3 choices or 4 choices, but have a passage of text and some buttons with choices. And I'll tell you in a minute what to do. So a label and some buttons. We need to make some more screens for our app. So at the top, do you see the button Add Screen? I'd like you to add, so mine might be Fight or Hide. I might make a screen called Screen Hide. You can make a screen that's named whatever makes sense for your story. And then, once that happens, it takes a minute to process. It takes you to a completely new screen in your app. You navigate between screens using this drop-down menu. Screen 1 is the one your app always starts on. And then you can have other screens as well. So I'd like you to, from your screen 1 where you have a story and some choices, make additional screens for each of your choices with another passage of text and maybe a picture or a sound or a voice. Whatever it is you want to create. I feel like Bob Ross. Okay, so I'm going to teach you how to wire up these different screens. I know you're probably not where you want to be yet, but here's the next step. Got to do it before the paint dries. So I have screen 1, and my message says, the principal is coming, what do you do? And my choices are run or hide. This button, the run button, is called button 1. The hide button is called button 2. I've not finished my run screen. I've finished my hide screen. So I'm going to go into blocks. I'm on screen 1. I'm going to go into blocks. Each screen has a completely different set of blocks. In screen 1, if they push button 2, the hide button, what I want to happen is that it transfers you over to the hide screen, which says, unfortunately, you weren't quick enough when ducking behind the ficus tree. She found you, but fortunately, she had cookies. So I want to make my screen 1 go to screen hide when someone pushes the hide button, which is called button 2. Here's how you do it. Under the control section, there is a open another screen block. And I can open another screen, but I have to tell it the name of this screen. So using some air quotes, I'm going to open screen hide. You have to capitalize and spell your screen names correctly. So let's see if I can make this go. So on my tablet, the oldest tablet on the planet, the principal is coming. What do you do? What do you do? I'm going to choose hide. And it says, unfortunately, you weren't quick enough when ducking behind the ficus tree. She found you. Fortunately, she had cookies. So this is how you can make your apps switch from one screen to another screen. So take a minute and wire up both choices and try out your app on your tablet. A website called soundbible.com, which has royalty-free sound effects. You in the library and media space know that free doesn't always mean free, but it certainly lists the license for each of the sound effects that it has. App Inventor will let you play MP3 sounds, and App Inventor will let you play wave sounds. So I like Sound Bible because you can go here and search for things. Oh, there's a Doberman. Neat. And I can listen to that sound and decide whether I like it or not. Dog barking. It's tagged under dog barking. Or a small dog. Or a German Shepherd. Or a puppy dog. Or a woof. For personal use only. Yeah, so Sound Bible. You can download sounds in MP3 or in WAV format, which are the formats that App Inventor supports. So I wanted a running sound, so I went with it, and I ended up with this as my other outcome. It says you ran, but you got hit by a train. Boo. And so I wanted to play the sound of the man getting hit by the train because it was there. So I included a sound component from the media group over here. I dragged in a sound. So just like you've dragged in images, you can drag in sounds. And I selected sound 1 and said its source is train.mp3, which is the sound file I got from the internet. But it didn't work. When I connect to my tablet, when I go to screen 1, can't see my words. When I tell the man to run, it opens the train screen and it shows the train and it shows the words, you ran but you got hit by a train, boo. It didn't play the sound. Anybody have any guesses? I've got my train sound plugged in here. Any guesses why it didn't do anything?
You didn't tell us to.
I didn't tell it to. Nothing happens in an app unless you tell it to. So how do I tell a sound to play? I can go to sound 1 and there's sound1.play. I could even say, do it, and I would hear the train come out of my tablet.
Wow.
I know. It was free. But what event is it necessarily that I want to wrap around the sound?
Loading the page?
Loading the page. So when the screen opens.
Yeah.
So there's an event handler for that. And it is under the screen. So when the screen initializes, if there's anything you want your app to do when the screen first loads, you can plug that into the when screen initialize block. So I'm going to go back to my screen 1. I don't know if we can stomach that more than once, but we'll see. It says, I want to run. It transfers me to the other page. It shows me the train. I hear the sound. Ah! Terrible. So that's how you make something happen immediately upon a screen opening. So under media, if you want to put a video player in, here's the details. So taking the Lego block analogy, so we've one of the Lego bricks that we can build with is the text-to-speech.
The one that made it, when it shakes,
So the accelerometer. So it doesn't just speak when you shake it. You can make it do anything when you shake it. But the Lego block by itself is respond to shaking,
Okay.
and that's the accelerometer sensor.
Proximity sensor.
We talked about the proximity sensor, which can tell you when you're too close to the phone or tell when it's up to some surface. We talked also about the location sensor.
Proximity, actually, how far away can it sense?
It depends on the device.
Okay.
More expensive Android devices can actually sense a distance, and other less expensive Android devices only know there's something smushed up against me and there's not something smushed up
Oh,
against
okay.
me. So if you were teaching your phone to be the command center for a robot, for instance, you might not want to depend on that proximity sensor too carefully or run you into a wall.
Okay.
At the most basic level, we talked about buttons,
Horizontal arrangement.
horizontal arrangements, and there's also a vertical arrangement to make things go vertically.
My favorite is table.
Table arrangement, yeah, because you have more control over that. We have not, so far, used a text box. Some of you inadvertently plugged in a text box, but we have not yet used a text box, and that's kind of the direction we're going. We talked about lists, and we saw the pick a random item from a list command. We talked about images. We saw that we could put images in buttons. We could put images in picture frames. Some of you set the whole wallpaper of your app to an image. We haven't talked much about color. Color is a fun one to talk about too. Labels. Labels are the things that we use to put words on your screen. So I want to pause right here and reopen a discussion that we had a little while ago. And the discussion was thinking about the top 3 apps you use. Take your phone out and go look at one and see if you can now identify any building blocks that you've touched in an app that you use. See if you start to see behind the screens and look at that app and see if you see any building blocks. Do you see labels? Do you see text boxes? Do you see buttons? Do you see images? Do you see screens? Do you see arrangements? All of the apps in the world are built using the same toolbox.
Really?
Yeah. So for us to make this as easy as possible, I would like us to have a label that says, guess my number 1 through 10. I would like us to have a text box that says, here's where you put your guess. And I'd like us to have a button. And I'd like to have the button say, check guess. So this is my Guess My Number app. And I'll show you my improvements. My first improvement was I plussed it with a little graphic with a whole bunch of question marks I stole from the internet. This is one, and it has Comic Sans, which is the universally unaccepted font with millennials. I made this image using Google Drawings. I'm not skilled in the publisher or the Photoshop. I can do a Google drawing, maybe. It's not attractive, but it's more attractive than the built-in fonts of App Inventor. So I put an image. That was one improvement I made. Another improvement I made is that I updated the range of possible numbers between 1 and 10 to make it 1 to 100. And Paige would probably pull her hair out if she were trying to guess from 1 to 100, because I watched her nearly pull her hair out guessing 1 to 10. And then I did this thing where I put the text box beside the guess button.
Under each other.
So it's a horizontal arrangement. If we peek over here, we can tell that. We can believe it. Horizontal arrangement. And it has the text box and the button. And the way horizontal arrangements work is everything that's in it, instead of going up and down, goes side to side. And you just have to mess with them to get it in there. And you can inspect the order of the things and the indentation of the things. It could be that you thought you had it in it, but you actually had it below it. It's hard. And then down here, I have an image. And remember, an image is not a single photo. An image is like a picture frame. You can change out what image files are displayed in this picture frame. And by default, my image has no picture by default. I also have an accelerometer sensor, and I have a text-to-speech. But I've not been having good luck with the lady talking to me lately. I also have a photo uploaded. It's a down JPEG. Ooh, come back. An up JPEG and a win JPEG. So, let's see what the blocks say. Wow. So many blocks. Any questions about, come back. Any questions about this block? Initialize secret number to a random integer from 1 to 100. That's just exactly what it says to do. When you start the app, set the secret number from 1 to 100. when the user clicks the button, it dismisses the keyboard. Did you notice when you played this on your tablet, the keyboard would pop up and it would sometimes change the layout and the way your app looked? So whenever the user guesses, I dismiss the keyboard. Did anyone try to make it give you hints, higher, lower hints? Did anyone succeed at getting it to give you higher, lower hints? Yay! Okay, I did too. So instead of asking, is it equal to? I said, is what they gave me too low? And if what they gave me was too low, I displayed the words guess higher, and I also updated the picture to an up arrow. Otherwise, if what they gave me was too high, I updated the label to say too high and to give them a down arrow. And if it wasn't too low and it wasn't too high, then they got it. And so we displayed a win picture. Procedures previously. So the new game procedure just says set the text box to nothing, set the picture to nothing, set the label to I'm thinking of a number, and pick a new number. It essentially resets the game. I had a student one time say, Mr. Moix, how do I make a reset button? And I said, well, you put in a button and you tell it what to do when you want to reset. I don't want to do that. I just want a reset button. App Inventor doesn't have a reset button. App Inventor just has a button. And it's up to you, the developer, to decide what that means. I also have this block down here. Do you remember what I said long click means?
Mm-hmm.
When you hold your finger on a button? What does this code do? It puts the answer in the box. You used a list view. You already had a list view pulled in when I got to you, so you had your idea about that. A list view, she's already gone, the woman who wanted to scroll. This is the thing that you use to scroll. Basically, when someone clicks the button, we want to add what they typed in to the history. Well, in order to do that, we need a variable, and we had a variable already that holds our secret. I'm going to call this variable history. And when the app begins, our history is empty. We don't have anything in our history list. When they click the button, we want to add to the history list what they typed in the text box. Code building the APK, which is an Android package, PK package file. And this takes longer than what we've been doing with the AI Companion, because the AI Companion is still like in testing mode. The QR code that appears is actually going to install your app as an icon on your device. You can't save that QR code and use it over again because the QR code expires. You can download the app and install it, but you can't share that QR code with other people because the QR code will expire. The other way is to choose Save APK to my computer, and it'll go through the same build process. It'll compile your app, and then it'll pop out a file that you can share on email, that you can post on a website, that you can do anything you can do with a file, and share that with other people. And so they would just go through the process of opening that APK in their browser, the same way that you installed the companion on your tablet. You went to a website where that file was, and you downloaded it and opened it, and then it said, ooh, you don't know who made that. It's going to say the same thing to them about, ooh, you don't know who made that. And then there's my APK that came out of this app. So one way is to get a QR code. One way is to get an APK file and share it that way. You can also publish your apps to the Google Play Store. Developer.android.com is where you begin the process of registering as an Android developer. If you want to publish your app in the Google Play Store, you have to have a license. In the process of getting the license, you have to pay $25. $25 is not going to break the bank for me, but if you're talking to patrons at a library, $25 could be a lot of money. So what barriers do you see in implementing these tools in your locations?